Ահա։ Էլի վազում է ինքը կողքանց, նայ։ Ինչ արի չարի չկարացա էդի բանանը մանջտեմ։
Արտը թո իրա պակետը ուղարկի քեզ, փոխի քոնի հետ։ Настройки պապկեն։
Բարեկում, Էլջան։ Լավ, դու ոնց ես։
Hello.
Welcome back to my.
No, espérese. Es normal. No. Alveg eller ikke Nelveg?
Bu ancaq olsun közünüz.
Ara gün sonuçta arkada ne yapıyorsun? Bunu arkada.
Siz kız şimdi yapar. Bunlar şimdi ekran diyorsun. İşte.
Olmadı paket sorun. Ormanı kovboy. Onde não é melhor. Zero.
Harika bir olacak.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Russell, Norris, Sainz, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Stroll, Ricciardo, Albon, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Bottas, Joe, and Logan Sargent. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson.
good.
Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show...
Right, and now... You're hot in the cockpit, but your tyres are going to be even hotter. You're going to have to work extra hard today to... Okay, DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Good job, that was the fastest lap of the race so far. Okay mate, final lap. Keep your concentration and let's bring it home. That was not easy.
So with the sprint concluded, join us next time for qualifying. And of course, the welcome back to my... Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome, home of the Miami Grand Prix. This exciting track circumnavigates the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the National Football League outfit, the Miami Dolphins. A lap of the Miami Grand Prix features 3.36 miles of track around the Hard Rock Stadium, and 19 corners make up the Miami International Autodrome, which will challenge the drivers in a tight wheel-to-wheel race. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Albon, Magnussen, Ocon, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Joe, Bottas, and Logan Sargent. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. And alongside me here today in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not.
Yeah, they have, and it's, rule number one, beat your teammate. They're the one that share the same equipment as you, and yes, the cars can vary in setup from race to race and depending on who has which style, but essentially, they're your barometer.
Okay, mate, I know it's tough in there, it's hot in that cockpit, but your tyres are even hotter, so you're going to have to work extra hard to keep them cool. It matters for performance. DRS now enabled. DRS enabled. Great work. That's a new fastest lap of the race. Okay, Max, we've got some clear track around us now, so let's use it and make this next lap a quick one. Let's go. Yes, mate, we hit the target. Nice work. Gap to your teammate behind, 13.5 seconds. Okay, mate, this is the final lap of the race. Final lap.
I call that simply lovely. That was a good race. Good race all round. So thank you very much. That was really, really good. Also good for the team again.
out, we're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again, because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Okay, all the new parts have been fabricated and we're going to have them with us for the next Grand Prix.
Ciao, hello, and welcome to Imola. We're just about...
I've had a chat with the R&D team about the new parts, and we're happy that... Okay, give us some good, consistent laps, please. We're looking for good data that we can work into a race strategy. because temperature's so important for your tyres. Cool down laps are now vital after a push lap so that we don't light up the rubber too much, not to mention recharging the battery. We need to be sure we can manage the tyres through a lap, so try to keep the wear down through each corner. Be especially careful accelerating on corner exit. Okay, test complete, and that was a really good job indeed. We got a lot of valuable information out of that. Well done. Nice one. Okay, reminder, a neat way to recharge the batteries by lifting at certain points when you feel you can and by gentle braking. Try those this lap and see how you get on. Okay, on this test I want you to focus on managing your ERS. It's really important for our overall race pace, and so a reminder that you've got modes to play with in your MFD. See how they feel for you and see how different modes drain the battery. Program complete and a job well done. We got some excellent data with that run, so come on back to the garage and I can take you through the numbers.
And that's welcome along everybody to goodbye for now then, but really we're just Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. One lap of Imola, anti-clockwise of course, unlike most Formula One circuits, will take our drivers round 3.1 miles of track. 19 turns, 9 right-handers and 10 to the left. Drivers will need to be precise at the hairpin at turn 7, given the subsequent uphill section. Without a good exit from that corner, they'll lose a lot of time on that stretch. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Lando Norris lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Russell, Perez, Stroll, Albon, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Ocon, Bottas, Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me today, a man who I'm always pleased to see join me in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. Let's look at their season, and particularly against their teammate. Fair to say, they've got the better of them more often than not.
Yeah, they have, and it's, rule number 1, beat your teammate. They're the one that share the same equipment as you. And yes, the cars can vary in setup from race to race and depending on who has which style. But essentially, they're your barometer, the yardstick. If you can beat them, that's the first job you have to do. And
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. was the fastest lap of the race. Keep this up. Well done. Okay, Max, we've got some clear track in front of us, and let's make the best of it. So please make this next one a very fast lap. Tyre condition still looking good. Nice work, you smashed it. Really good job on hitting that target, mate. Okay, you've just started the final lap of the race. Final lap.
Yeah, really good weekend. So thank you very much, everyone.
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen. He takes victory.
They led from lights out to the flag at the end, and their race victory was never in doubt, was it? Brilliant stuff by them.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing.
OK, mate, I'm pleased to say that our new parts have come through without any issue, so they'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.